Hello and welcome to Vicky's Keto Way of Life. Today I am going to work on a keto bread. That's right, keto bread. So what I'm going to be using today is almond flour, wheat germ, coconut flour, pink Himalayan salt, active dry yeast, and also I have ground up chia seeds, and I used it in my Vitamix to grind it up. And I will be using, of course, I already said yeast, but I'll be using honey. No, honey is not keto, but you need the honey to be able to activate the yeast. The yeast eats up the honey, so any sugar gets ate up during the process of proofing the yeast. And I'm also going to be using 1 egg. All right, so I'm going to be using 2 teaspoons of the yeast. And I'm going to be putting it in my bowl here. So I will have 1 1/4 of a cup of hot water. And then I'm going to be adding 2 teaspoons of the pure honey. Now, as I said, yes, I understand that this is not keto, but this does end up eaten up by the yeast, so therefore there is not any sugar in this bread, because that is what activates the yeast. So once I get this mixed up, and then I'm going to stick it off to the side. I like to just stick it in my toaster oven. No, I don't turn the toaster oven on, but it just gets it out of the cool air and helps it to be able to activate faster. So I get it mixed up really well, and then I do that. So as you can see, I have honey dripping from my fingers. And no, I'm not going to lick it off, although I want to, but I will contain myself. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and get all my dry ingredients mixed up. So I'm going to do 1 cup right now of almond flour. And just tell you what's going to be in it. It's going to be 1 cup of almond flour, and I'm going to do 1 cup of wheat germ. And I understand that the wheat germ is not something some people can do, so therefore it would not be gluten-free. But the wheat germ is actually really good for you. So that is going to be 1 cup of the wheat germ. So I'm going to go ahead and get that in. And then it's going to be 1/3 of a cup of almond flour, coconut flour. And then I have my chia seeds here, which comes out to 1 1/2 tablespoons of chia seeds. And as I told you earlier, I put it into my dry mixture of my Vitamix. Sorry for the noise. And so then I'm using psyllium husk. Yeah, psyllium husk, very strange, I know. But when I first started keto and started using psyllium husk, it is like a thickener is what it is, which is also what the chia seeds does. But anyway. All right, so now I'm going to put my wheat germ in there and mix up all my dried ingredients. The only thing I have left to put in there is my pink Himalayan salt. So here's my pink Himalayan salt. I always keep it in this little container. So it's going to be 1 teaspoon. Usually I just kind of flick it in there. I don't measure sometimes, but I'm trying to work on that. That way I can really share my recipes. The more that I measure and keep track of things, the better that I can do for myself and also help others. I also like to put a packet of Truvia in. I just remember growing up with my mother, and every time she made bread, even when it didn't call for sugar, she always would put a tablespoon or so of sugar. And I'm not sure why, but to me, it just adds a lot of flavor to it. So now I'm going to go check on my yeast and see if it's proofed yet, and I'll be right back. All right, so now my yeast is proofed, as you can see here, and look at the beautiful bubbles on there. So now we're ready to mix our wet ingredients with our dry ingredients. All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm pouring in the yeast into my wet ingredients, into my dry ingredients, and my oven is ready. I just heard it. So now that's just perfect timing. So I'm going to get this all mixed up. Now this is mixed up, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it sit for just a little bit, because I want that chia seeds to get activated, because the chia seeds and the psyllium husk is going to help it to be able to bind together. It's going to do the things that regular flour does for bread. So as soon as that gets done, we'll be back. All right, so I believe everything is good. I've got it here into a ball now. So, and then I'm going to break it into 2 balls. So I'm just going to put my hands in there and just start working it. Now it's not going to be like regular dough, guys. So, you know, I wish it could, because I would love to be able to make shapes out of it. So all I'm going to do is make it into 2 different balls. So I'm going to just start working it, and then I have some extra almond flour over here in case I need it, in case it's a little bit too wet. So all I'm going to do is work it really nice. Don't want to do too much. So I have a piece of parchment paper. As you can tell, I'm not the best at tearing parchment paper, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be beautiful. So now I've got my 2 balls here. So I'm just going to push it down somewhat to make it, because it is going to spread out some during the process. And so then I'm going to take my egg here, and I'm going to do an egg wash. I always like the shininess on top of the bread. And then I like to take a knife and just do some cutting across it, both ways. So I have the oven ready. So now I'm going to put it in the oven for about 35 or 40 minutes, and I'll be back. Now I have that in the oven, and one thing I want to point out is, one thing I hate is waste, waste, waste. Don't like to waste anything. So I've got my egg here, and I'm going to make it into a scrambled egg, and I'm going to put it in with my livestock's dog food tonight. So that way we're not wasting anything. All right, so now I've taken the bread out of the oven, and you can see what it looks like. It's looking really good. It's a little browner than I would like. So now I'm going to put it on the rack to cool. So now I have it on the rack, and it's going to cool, and as soon as it's cooled off, I'll cut it and show you how it looks. and I'll tell you how it tastes. All right, so the bread is cool, and I'm going to cut it for you. I'm going to take a look at how it is. So you see, it's all nice. Just going to cut a little bit off of it. All right, so here we are. This is it. And I am actually got a little bit of butter over here. So take a little bit of butter on it. And let me have a taste. Really tastes delicious. So it is very good. Excuse me. We are going to rate it later. To me, a good bread needs to be good the next day also. So if it's not good reheated, then I have a problem with it. So, but as far as right now, this tastes very good. It cut very nicely, as you can see. And I think it's a little spongy inside, not like a normal bread, but it still has a really good taste to it, although you may or may not like the texture, but it tastes really good to me. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. Thank you for joining Vicky's Keto Way of Life.